So the question is now asked, how good are the Oklahoma Sooners this season? Are they as projected? Well, after the win in the Red River Rivalry against number 3 Texas at the time, Oklahoma shot the polls. And so we're going to look at this polls because we're going polling. All came out yesterday, as well as ESPN's FPI, which you all know we've gone through the FPI, which is their Football Power Index. Computers basically telling us how good they think a team is. And Oklahoma's been sticking to like the same spot the entire time for the most part, which is fascinating in itself. And so we're going to dive into those numbers. I also want to look at how Oklahoma looks going forward for the rest of the season. So we're going to dive into that as well. But before we do that, welcome to Unfair Sports. I'm your host, Jay. Thanks for pulling up to the channel. We appreciate the love and support. Sooners are having a great season, so of course the videos are getting better. I still have my nitpick video coming out tomorrow. We're going to dive into that Red River game and look at some of the flaws. But today, let's look at these polls. We've got Oklahoma that jumped into the polls. They've flown up from 12 to this spot. Let's go ahead and run into that. So as you can see, Oklahoma has moved to the 5th spot in the AP poll, which was interesting because it was one of the pollsters that actually didn't even have Oklahoma in the top 5. And her reasoning was, and I say her because it was her reasoning was that Oklahoma should have won. If Oklahoma had won by more than 3 points, greater than 3 points, then they would have been considered higher. But because they didn't, they decided to pick them to go, lower. But Oklahoma won by 4. So it was really weird. Just throwing it out there because it's all over social media. Everybody is dunking on this young lady, and I feel really bad for her. But at the same time, you got to make sure you do a little bit of your homework, which is what I try to do, and try to bring those numbers to make sure we ain't looking crazy. So you see this. Oklahoma is number 5 right now. Texas falls to number 9, which is 6 spots down. And to be honest, I'm actually surprised Texas moved that far. I didn't think they should have fallen that far, but it's probably because Oregon, Washington, and Penn State are all undefeated as well. And they've got marquee games coming up this weekend, like Oregon and Washington. They've got a big game this weekend. And honestly, the winner of that game, depending on how the game goes, could move up, or they could probably stay in the same spots because right now, Oklahoma kind of has the most impressive win in college football, outside of Texas beating Alabama in Tuscaloosa by 10 points. So, I mean, honestly, these two teams have the best wins in college football. And so because of that, it's going to help with the polling itself. But let's get off of that portion of it. With Oklahoma moving up, and in the coaches poll, in the top 10, Oklahoma did move up to 7 from 12 also there, and Texas fell to number 11. So they're outside of this top 10, but they're in the top 15. And so I found that interesting, more so that Oklahoma is now starting to get that respect that we were asking for. The thing that us Sooner fans was wondering what happened. And everybody, if you go look at all the videos going on YouTube, if you look at all the reports, all of the TV shows, the national media, the YouTubers, etc., everybody's saying Oklahoma's for real. Everybody's saying Oklahoma's legit. And I'm going to be honest, I don't like it. I prefer the doubt. The doubt has done us well, because the doubt not only gets you that chip on your shoulder, but it also has led to us going out there and playing harder. And I prefer us to be that team. And so I've got numbers. My boy Stats by Popo, my guy Jacob Majors, have already put together a whole bunch of numbers for me. And we're going to break down where Oklahoma is from 2000 to now. It's not going to be in this video. Just keep your eyes out. It'll be on the video tomorrow. We'll break that down. But right now, with Oklahoma moving up to 5, we are now in the driver's seat. And this is where we're in the driver's seat. Let's take a look at ESPN's FPI, which is a Football Power Index, which is the computers basically calculating like 20,000 simulations and where they think a team's going to end up. Well, the way it looks, Oklahoma has moved up to number 2, which is where they were last week and most of the season. I think there was 1 week Oklahoma dropped, and that was when Texas beat Alabama. But for the most part, Oklahoma has been the number 2 spot this entire season by ESPN's FPI, which they believe that this roster itself is one of the best in the country. It is. This roster is legit, and we're seeing them play it out. And so because of that, now we need to live up to those expectations. And the Sooners at this point, health-wise, knock on wood, attrition has been okay for us. We may be losing Andrew Anthony, the wide receiver. He limped off on his knee. Gentry Williams looked good after the game, so did Billy Bowman. And McKay Matauer was taken out on a cart, but we don't know the update. So I need to go watch Brent Venables' presser, which actually I don't think he has one this today. I think it's tomorrow, which is Tuesday. We'll go watch, see what he says, and come back, of course, and report and talk about the implications of that. But right now, Caden Green has moved into the spot, so we're seeing more Caden Green, the true freshman out there. Wide receiver-wise, I expect seeing more Nick Anderson as well as Jaden Gibson. That's what we do, next man up. And I hate to see those great players go down, but at the same time, like I said, next man up. And so because of that, Oklahoma is at the number 2 spot in FPI, right behind Ohio State, which is interesting. Alabama's at 3rd, Georgia 4th, Oregon 5th, and Texas only went to 6th. They didn't really move far. I think they were 5th the week before. And so it's not a bad thing at all for both teams. That was a close game. It was a good fought battle. It was a rivalry game. So anything can happen. We've seen all kinds of crazy stuff happen. But Oklahoma at 6-0, Brent Venables' second season, huge deal. But let's look at this real quick. And I think this is the thing that really jumped out to me too, is the final games of the season we've got to pay attention to, folks. These are the last 6 games of the season, and this is what ESPN's FPI percentages has for us winning these games. So we got the bye week this week. So far, it's 100% win, but there's a chance we could, actually I think it's 99.9. There's that 0.1% chance we lose in the bye week. Kidding. We have UCF on the 21st, which looks like it's an 11 o'clock kickoff. We have a 94% chance to win that game. UCF has, played okay football. We're going to say it that way because I had higher expectations from them this season coming into the Big 12. You would have thought that they were going to come in here and, be a threat. But they're 3-3 and they have not won a single Big 12 game yet. Their first set of Big 12 games, they played against Kansas State, got beat. They lost to Baylor on that last minute one that they shouldn't have. And then Kansas beat the brakes off of them last week. It's going to be interesting. And they'll be traveling to Norman for this game. I anticipate that spread to be pretty high. I'm going to say a 3 touchdown. Let's say 21 points. Next, we'll travel to Lawrence, Kansas to play against the Kansas Jayhawks. Jalen Daniels seemed to be getting himself back into good health, which I hope he does not play. Right now, it's still Bean, which Bean put in work on us. Jason Bean put in work on us last year. And with this new defense, I think we'll be fine against him, though. He was 8 for 12 for 91 yards against UCF, and they ran it down their throat the entire game. And so we have an 89% chance of winning that on the road. That one, it's going to be a challenge because Kansas has a pretty solid run game. Devin Neal is a really good back. And then the week after, we travel to Oklahoma State. It's a 93 on the scale. Oklahoma State, I don't know if they're actually any good. They are 1-1 in conference. They beat Kansas State, which was weird. Kansas State's just having a weird season. Of course, when they're down, we don't play them, whatevs. So we've got Oklahoma State. The following week, we have West Virginia at a 95. Now, West Virginia is having a really good season, a very shockingly good season, very disciplined. Got 2 offensive linemen on there that look like they could be NFL bound. So I think that's a game that's going to be, you can't overlook them. So we've got to work hard in that game in preparation because West Virginia is not, by the time they come into this game, West Virginia right now at 2-0 in conference, them playing Houston, Oklahoma State, UCF, and BYU, they could probably only lose one of those games and walk into that game at a 7-1 record in conference. Then they play us. And then we got BYU on the road, which that one's at 93. I'm concerned because BYU in altitude, most likely at night, could be an interesting game, but we should be able to pull that one out. And then we wrap it up with TCU coming to the crib on Black Friday. 91% there. So they're our second lowest, with Kansas being the lowest. Now, the FPI does not take in consideration the injuries traditionally. And so because of that, this is with Jalen Daniels for Kansas. There's a good chance that number should be higher because Jalen Daniels probably ain't going to play. But I digress. That's what we're looking like FPI-wise. This is what the computers think our percentages of winning these games. So for the most part, we should be smooth sailing towards the Big 12 championship game in Arlington. And I've got my hotel booked. I'm going to get my tickets purchased as well. I don't see why we don't go. There's no reason not to. I've already got money on Oklahoma winning over 10 games. So y'all better go ahead and make it good for me. So that's what we're looking like moving forward. Hop in the comments. Let your boy know what's your thoughts. How you feeling about the Sooners going forward? You think we can make it to the Big 12 championship? Remember, the big thing with Brent Venables is this. One game at a time. We're going to focus one game at a time. If you made it this far, you like the content, hit the like button. If you're new to the channel, subscribe. We'd love for you to join this great family of college football fans. And we'll continue to talk ball. So YouTube says watch one of these videos. I highly recommend it because I made it for you, the people. And please share. Why? Because sharing is caring. And we'll talk soon. Peace.